Among the greatest new features of Adobe Animate CC is the Paintbrush Tool, which gives you the ability to use vector art and pattern brushes within your creative projects. Here we have an animation which is nearly complete. The only thing missing is the secondary blaster fire, which belongs in this span right here. Before we do that, let's actually go into the ground layer, and we'll unlock that. What we're going to do is use the Paintbrush tool and select a style from our brush library. To access the brush library, we just click this icon right here with our Paintbrush tool selected, and from there we're able to choose from a number of different vector art brushes that come packaged with Animate CC. So maybe I want to use this one right here. I can just double click on that, and there we have it loaded into our style in the Properties panel. With that done, and the ground layer selected, I can go ahead and create some additional shadows here. You'll notice that that is very slight, so I can push my stroke up a bit, and we can see how that draws out there. Additionally, we have a number of smoothing options here. So the smoothing goes from 0 to 100. This is a value of how much Animate is going to try to smooth out our strokes when we use the Paintbrush tool. If we don't want to use smoothing at all, we can choose to have Animate CC straighten our strokes. So there's straighten. Or we can have Animate CC do nothing, and it will retain whatever sort of deviation we have in the lines there. The default is smooth, and with that, it applies a basic amount of smoothness. Let's go ahead and remove those particular vectors and lock down our ground layer once again. This first blast is created using the Paintbrush tool without any vector art brushes applied to it, only a tapered variable with stroke. So if we select our Paintbrush tool, we can see that we don't have any vector art applied to it right now, no brushes here in stroke style. And for width, what we would do is choose width profile 1, and you can see that this tapers on either end. That's how we can get these nice smooth lines with the new Paintbrush tool. We'll also employ the Paintbrush tool, this time with enhanced vector art brushes applied to it for the secondary blast. So to do that, we'll just go back over to frame 65, and you'll notice we already have some blank keyframes defined here. So the brush will only exist within this span of frames. Let's open up our CC Libraries panel. A number of vector art brushes have actually been created using Adobe Capture CC, a mobile app you can use on both iOS and Android. Let's go ahead and choose one of these brushes, and we'll make sure to have the Paintbrush tool selected as we go ahead and choose this particular brush to see it load into our style. Let's go ahead now and draw out an initial blast. So I'm going to start from the weapon here and just kind of drag it out to about there. You'll notice that it doesn't look much like a blast right now. However, we can use the selection tool to modify some of the properties of this brush. For instance, I can go in and choose a nice bright red color. I can also make the stroke size much bigger. So let's bump this up to something like 90. And to make it look more like a blast, let's apply a variable with profile to this. I'm going to choose with profile 5. And just bump up that stroke size a little bit more, and there we are. You'll notice that with the selection tool, I'm able to actually go ahead and with nothing selected, I can make the path modify itself just like I would any other shape inside of Animate. To create a subsequent frame of animation, I'm going to choose frame 66, and I will insert timeline keyframe. This makes an exact copy of what was on the previous frame. From here, I can go ahead and make adjustments to that. So for instance, if I hold down the Alt key on my keyboard and click the side here, I can pull out that blast. I can change its color and even pull down the stroke size. I'm going to build out a new variation of this vector on each one of these keyframes to simulate the animated laser blast. This is going to take quite a while, so I'm going to skip ahead to something that's already built. Alright, so what I've done here is in the Beam 2 layer, I've completed drawing out all of those different keyframes. And I've even done some animation in this pulse layer. If we click on the initial frame here, we can see that the pulse layer is also using that same art brush. I've made this pulse as a movie clip symbol, as I want its internal timeline to continue playing and looping, regardless of what is happening on the main timeline. The blast animation itself existing only on the main timeline, with frames and animations specific to the overall movie length. As we step through, you'll notice that the blast actually does sometimes bend. So we can use the selection tool to bend the actual blast wave like that. And we can modify the colors, the length, and so forth as we step through. Once we get to the end, it weakens and dissipates. I've gone ahead and rendered this animation as a video, so let's have a look at it. Awesome. In the next video, you'll learn how to convert your vector art brushes into pattern brushes within Animate CC.